Sure.
Mine.
That's a brand new song. I just wrote it the other day.
Sweet.
And wrote this for my wife and my kid. It's called Something You'd Die For. Used to live for a dive bar buzz, long drag off a cigarette. I used to think I knew what love was, but I didn't know a damn thing yet. Woke up and I'm 5 years older, handyman house with the dog in the back, a wedding band and a baby in a stroller. Hell, everybody ought to have something that you live for, something that you fight for. Work your ass off overtime for something to come home to. You hold on to that little red light that pulls you through. I always thought there was something missing. Come to find out there's so much more. You think life's all about living, but you got something you would die for. Heaven knows if it came down to it, I swear I wouldn't even think twice. I'd gladly take the bullet. Somebody ever crossed that line? They used to tell me, but I didn't listen. But no, it never really crossed my mind. You don't think about unconditioned until you find something that you live for, something that you fight for. Work your ass off overtime for something to come home to. You hold on to that little red light that pulls you through. I always thought there was something missing. Come to find out there's so much more. You think life's all about living, but you got something you would die for. Whatever your heart beats for, what every breath you breathes for, it's what you hit your knees for. Something that you live for, something that you fight for. Work your ass off overtime for something to come home to. You hold on to that little red light that pulls you through. I always thought there was something missing. Come to find out there's so much more. You think life's all about living, but you got something you would die for. So you got something that you die for.
That was fantastic.
Thanks, man.
I loved it. I think that's one of the few like unreleased songs that have been played on the podcast so far, and that's fantastic.
First time I've ever played in front of a camera or anything like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks,
well,
man.
well, thank you so much.
So, first impressions, and you may get this a lot, you may not, but you're a lot taller than I expected.
Yeah.
I get that every show.
I don't know why, but for some reason I was expecting you to be a lot shorter.
I think it's because most everyone is. As most songwriters are
Yeah.
fairly short, and the stage makes them seem, normal side. Then, I'm tall. I get that all the time. I don't know why the perception is everyone's short that's on stage, but I think that's just kind of like it's like when you meet Bruce Robinson. I guess because you can't tell when you're always looking up at someone. You just, they're on a stage, they're elevated. But first time I met Bruce, I was like, man, you're tall. I get that all the time.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, but before we started the podcast, that you went to Lubbock for schools. You went to tech, I assume. What did you major while you?
I was agriculture economics was what I ended up with, but I was business, and then it was whatever my GPA allowed me to be. I fell in ag because I was trying to go to business, and then I couldn't get into business school, and so pretty much all my credits lined up with ag eco, and it was interesting. I loved the ag college there, so it kind of fell in line.
Yeah, I'm an ag business major as well. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, so, and I agree. It's it works out.
Yeah, you just kind of fall into it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
School is definitely hard with like a lot of stuff. I'm sure like playing music while you were in school too, like that had to be tough working around your schedule, I'm sure.
I mean, no, because the music was the priority. I mean, school is school was never a priority in my life. I was always a terrible student, but I was stubborn enough to finish college. I mean, that was like it was important for me to finish college. I think it was more so. I think my parents were very happy that they had all three of their kids graduate from college. So I think kind of having that in the back, like doing it for myself, but also like. I mean, now looking back on it, I'm very glad I did. But at the time, something I had to do. You know, I felt like I had to do. I don't know if I was doing it for my parents or what, but I felt like I had to do it. So, yeah, I was pretty stubborn about it. I was in college for 7 years. So.
Very successful agricultural economist, if I can pronounce that word now.
Economist.
Right? Economist. Of course. I mean, he's over here headlining. So,
So I saw some pictures yesterday on your Instagram story of you with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Gumbo is she's a black lab. She's from Northwest Arkansas, and I bought her last October. Her birthday's coming up, and she's almost 2, and she's been training for field trials and all that stuff, and we've got a family ranch down in Southeast Texas, and I'm not a big hunter like deer or anything, mule deer or elk or any of that stuff like some of my buddies are. I'm just like hunting. I'm just a duck hunter. So
really,
and I'm not like an incredibly good one, but this has been my first time getting a dog like Gumbo. I've never had a lab before. I've had them growing up. My dad trained dogs a little bit, and but I had to wait till I could afford the right breed line, and then also I knew I had to afford the training aspect. So it's more than just buying the dog, and so. I finally got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm ready to commit to. I didn't want to buy a lab and not commit to training it. So I was ready to commit a couple years ago, and she comes on the road with us, and she's got her own little bunk on the bus, and she's awesome. She's very sweet, and man, when she gets into hunting mode though, she just turns laser focused.
That's awesome.
Really fun. So.
I've never been duck hunting, but I've always
the same thing.
I've wanted to go so bad. One day I'm going to get to it.
The only
Southwest Arkansas or Southeast Arkansas is a great place, you know.
Really?
Southeast Oklahoma is a great place for it. Oklahoma in general is a great place for duck hunting. I mean, we're in Southeast Texas. It's kind of their last stop in the United States before they keep going, so they're pretty shut up by the time they get there. But I'm pretty avid. I've always been a duck hunter. It's just kind of been what our family does, and it's just what I know.
Hey guys, we want to tell you a little bit about Deadwake Archery Innovations. They got all kinds of awesome stuff. They create their very own custom designed CNC milled bows, and they do all kinds of crazy colors with the anodization. And you want to tell them a little bit more?
Yeah, so it is a Oklahoma State graduate. They're in Kansas, Oklahoma is where they're established. They do some great stuff, great killing machines for the water, honestly. And just go check them out. Thank you so much for Deadwake Archery Innovation for sponsoring this podcast. The only duck hunting I've ever done is probably some illegal pond hopping in northeast Oklahoma. So
I've
that's
done
the
my
only
fair share of
experience I
pond
have.
hopping, but we have a farm in West Texas where I have my cows at, and the hunting out there is just, I don't even consider it duck hunting. You just kind of sit on a bank and you shoot way more ducks in West Texas than you do in Southeast Texas. But Southeast Texas is like, there's alligators, there's swamp, we have an airboat, mud boats. It's like cabin in the swamp. Like, it's just kind of like the nostalgia of it. It's really cool down there.
So do you own a ranch in West Texas?
My family, my mom passed it down to me. It was her dad's. He was born there, and it's not a ranch. It's only like 160 acres, and then my mom owns half. So, but I run my cows on it, and I lived there after college, and so it's about an hour from Fort Worth, so I'm there quite a bit. So.
That's awesome. How many head do you have?
Just 7 and 14 in the calf. So, but that's what we run all our beef through. I have a beef company that we sell half and wholes beef, and so we run them out of there. And then also one of my partners has a place across the street, so we I'll sell mine one year and we'll sell his next. And we'll flip flop. So that way we always have beef rolling in and out. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I would have never guessed that. Like, your you're headlining at Bubba's one day, then the next day you're selling beef and
well, we just got sick of, I didn't get sick of it, but like I said, I only have 7 head because I'm 1 cow per 30 acres at my place.
Yeah.
And I don't like putting hay out because I'm gone so much. I like to have make sure the property can manage the amount of cows that's on it.
Yeah.
So just so it's kind of self-sustains itself. But when you're doing that much and you're every year you're taking 7 head to the sale barn and you're making, well, now it's $1,000 a head, but back then it was like $500.
Yeah.
$600. And which was cool. I mean, and it's really not about making money, but it was just kind of like I did that for like 5 or 6 years. And then, it's just a hobby for me. I'm not a real rancher or anything.
Yeah.
And then one of my buddies there was like, man, a lot of people have been selling beef, and I'd like to finish out cows. And he was like, would you want to partner with me? I was like, absolutely. That sounds like fun. So
yeah,
it's been a really cool experience, and we got a little merch line out with it, and it's been really fun. Like some fans buy halves and wholes, and I'll go deliver it to them. And
that's cool.
It's pretty cool.
So cool.
But we don't sell that much, and we're not trying. I mean, I guess we can get as big as we want to, but it's not like this isn't like a fallback plan. It's like it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's fun, and
it's a little side project.
And also people that, I mean, and somebody bought a beef the other day, and I went to their house, and it was a really nice house in Eastland County, and I was putting it in their freezer, and my partner was like, hey, how'd you hear about us? And they're like, oh, just randomly heard, and we just wanted to try buy a half and whole or a half, and we just randomly heard, and turns out that she's like, so what do you do? I was like, well, I'm a musician. I travel the country and play songs. And they're like, oh, really? What's your name? And I was like, my name's William Clark Green. So they had no clue. Well, their son, they're like, yeah, we bought some beef from this guy named William. He was like, what? William Clark Green's at your house? I mean, it was really funny. And they called I can't believe we didn't know, blah, blah. And I was like, it's all good. Like, I thought that was cool.
That's crazy. So what, do you have a name? What's the name of your beef?
It's called Bill Grease Beef.
Bill Grease Beef.
So in college, I had a nickname. So everything I own is in Bill Grease. So the name of the record company that we have is called Bill Grease Records. That's what all of our checks have that we pay out say Bill Grease Records on them. And it was a college nickname because I'd always show up to class hungover, and one of my buddies, Rankin Starkey, he was like, you're not William Clark Green, you're more like Bill Grease. And it just stuck. It just stuck. So. My wife always says too. She goes, "I didn't marry William Clark Green. I wanted to marry Bill Grease." So it's like the alter ego, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever. So
That's his Chris Gaines right there.
Yes,
actually,
exactly.
I feel like Bill Grease is more me than William Clark Green, which is hilarious. So I think my wife thinks that too. Yeah.
Are you gonna drop a rock album here pretty quick? That's gonna be called Bill Grease, self-titled.
Yeah, that would be fun to do a song named Bill Grease, something like that. The Ballad of Bill Grease.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So have you always gone by the William Clark Green?
That's my name.
Yeah.
I always gone by William. So, but no, I mean, when I was growing up, and they weren't like William Clark Green, like.
Yeah.
But my sister's kids is Tom Henry, Thomas Henry. Everybody calls him Tom Henry, but yeah, I was just William Green growing up.
Yeah.
And my favorite songwriters of all time, his name's Willis Allen Ramsey, and I just thought that his name always sounded so cool, Willis Allen Ramsey. And so I was like, Willis Allen Ramsey, and William Clark Green. And I was like, that was kind of what I went by.
Yeah,
So.
it's got a good flow to it, for sure.
Yeah, and I never used my middle name growing up or anything, so it's kind of cool to kind of use it. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you ever get like? Does someone ever call you Charles Wesley Godwin?
No, I get William Clark.
William Clark.
Yeah.
I had
all the time.
John. He was asking what we were doing this week. I was telling him, and then he texted me like yesterday or the day before, and he's like, "You still going to talk to Charles Wesley Godwin?" I was like, "No,
Charles is
different
awesome.
guy.
We love him, by the way.
Yeah.
Different 3-worded name."
Yeah, either a songwriter or a serial killer. So that's what I say.
So speaking of songwriting, like, how do you get in like the headspace to like write songs and like really get in that mode of writing songs? Where do you draw inspiration from it as well?
I mean, just like that song, I mean, that's just what I want to write about. Like, I mean, every record is like, my last record was about, a lot of it was about, it's like 3 years behind. So when I come out of a record, the writing happened 3 years ago. So it was my life 3 years ago. So the last record, Baker Hotel, came out, was about, majority about, it was about really a combination of 2 ex-girlfriends that I had. And yeah, that's just, it's every every album's a chapter. And this next album, I'm sure we'll have songs that are all about my family and my wife and you know, all that stuff. So, but every record's a chapter. I mean, you could literally, my life story is pretty much every one. And I'm not saying every song is. There's songs that I take. You know, a friend of mine is going through a situation, and I'll make it first person. You know, and sometimes I'll make it, you know, third person. So it's just however. Yeah, I mean, there's no rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically I write about things I care about. You know.
Yeah. Or
things that are weighing. You know, I'm a very vulnerable songwriter. I don't hide anything in my songwriting. Everything is pretty much black and white. So it's pretty obvious what I'm feeling or going through or where I'm at in my life on each record. You know.
Go ahead. I was like, how old were you when you started writing songs?
8th grade. Yeah, I wrote my first song 8th grade. Yeah, I was definitely middle school. It could have been 7th, but I'm pretty sure it was 8th. Because I remember I was just learning how to play guitar in 7th grade. And when I was, you know, that was big, you know, you get off school and you go watch MTV, TRL, To Look Rest Live, you know? And I was like, and I remember I was practicing guitar and like I was playing a couple chords and they matched up with whatever was going on, you know? And I wasn't trying to learn the song, but I was just like playing around and I was like, oh, that sounded like that chord he just played. And then, or that sounds like that on that music video. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then I found out, I was like, oh my gosh. Because back then you had to go to a computer, which we didn't have a computer in the house.
Yeah.
Find a computer, then print out, you know, and you had to figure out chord progressions and time signatures of your hand. And then it also have the notes above the words. And, you know, and I hated doing that. So I was always wanted to figure out how to just play it, listen to it and play it. So, and it's really wasn't difficult to do. But once I figured out how to do that, I was like, well, shoot, that's all they're doing to write these songs. And they're on MTV.
Yeah.
You know, I could write a song. And so I just started writing. I mean, yeah, I wasn't taught. My dad didn't. There was just started doing it.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, were there any do you have any family members that played music, wrote music, or anything like that?
Yeah, my Uncle Marty, he named me actually. He always had a Martin guitar, and every time we were at the beach, he was always playing, but he wasn't a songwriter. He'd play Margaritaville, and he'd play, you know, just like the classic fun songs, you know. And my cousins, they kind of play guitar the same way. They just kind of covered, you know, that's what I was doing too. And then my dad played guitar in college, like as just a study break. He didn't play but he knew how to play. We always had a guitar laying around the house, but he didn't really play it.
Yeah.
And so I think when I sparked interest in it, I mean, my dad's really into rock and roll and stuff like that, you know, Ry Cooder and Leonard Skinner and stuff like that. I mean, he's a lover of music. Always had music playing. My dad has good taste in music too, and so I don't know. It just kind of was. There was always a guitar in the corner, and growing up, so it was just there was always a guitar around, but no one really played it, you know.
Yeah.
So, but there wasn't like a huge like. Yeah, I did. I think I learned guitar at boredom. I moved to College Station. I had no friends. I moved there over summertime. I had no friends. We just moved there, and my cousin was a freshman at A&M, and we'd go to church on Sunday, and we'd take him out to lunch afterwards, you know, and we would always after church one time they were like, hey, free guitar lessons. And he was like, you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to do that because I was so bored.
Yeah.
And we took the guitar lessons together, and then I'd go to his dorm, and you know, he taught me how to dip stuff, and and we'd learn, like, you know, I remember Steve Earle songs and Robert O'Keen songs, and he said, have you heard this guy Robert O'Keen? Like, no, I've never heard of him, you know, and because he had a computer in his dorm, so we could look up all these songs and try to learn how to play them, and then in college he had a band. So the 4 years he was in college, you know, I was, and he was probably there for 5 years, and I was my whole high school. So we were always, you know, and then he had like a little band, so I'd go open for him a time or two, and we'd go out to our family ranch we do a big party there every year, and we'd play, you know, we'd song swap and stuff like that, and yeah, it just that's kind of how it happened. And that's so awesome. His name, he passed away, unfortunately. His name was Benjamin, Ben Hall, and so I named my first son Benjamin. After him, and then also my great grandfather, kind of a mixture of the two. But yeah, I mean, that was really it. I mean, that's kind of how it started. And then I just anything. I knew I didn't want to. You know, I hated school, and I just always had a guitar in my hand. You know, I was always had it around and always writing songs. And always doing that kind of stuff.
It sounded like it was destined to happen regardless. Really.
Well, I mean, I think I just did it so much. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
I just did it so much. So.
Do you ever find it hard to, like, when you're writing a song? Is it like, for me, it would be difficult to not get other song melodies or things like that in my head, and like, is it ever tough to like?
Well, it's not tough. It's embarrassing, if anything. Like, because you know, I've never done an outside cut, you know, ever. And my goal is definitely not to steal something from someone, you know, and go, you know, I'm very, very passionate about doing everything my sound, my way, you know, and but yeah, I mean, Rose Queen sounds just like the intro to an Adam Hood song. I mean, exactly the same. And I didn't know it till the record came out. I didn't realize it, but it is. It's almost a carbon copy of it. And subconsciously we did it.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like, I love that song, but I love this. I've heard the song a bunch, but I didn't, when I was writing the song or when we were in the studio, I wasn't thinking about, oh, we should do this Adam Hood intro.
Yeah.
But if you look at them, it's literally like the exact same thing.
Wow.
The intro is.
Yeah.
And it was embarrassing. I was so embarrassed. I called Adam. I was like, hey, man, like, because you know, if he listened to my record, he heard it and was like, dude, that sounds just like my intro. You know?
Exactly.
Like, there's no way he wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So I called him. I was like, dude, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I just realized, and he's kind of chuckled because he had seen me a couple of times prior to the record coming out, and he didn't say anything. And I'm so embarrassed, man. Like, you know, obviously I've heard that song before. It must have been a subconscious thing. Like, you know, I obviously would never try to steal or rip you off. Like, you know. And it's not like my song was a huge hit success anyways, but it was just like, it's embarrassing, if anything. But yeah, I would say, to answer your question, there's always, like, definitely, you try to negate that, but it's an honest mistake. It's an honest mistake. I mean, it's more of a compliment to if it happens. It was more of a compliment, I feel like, to him than he, just because he knows I was a fan. I mean, I was going and watching his shows and stuff.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it was a subconscious deal, but I would never do that intentionally. But also, it's.
Well, howdy, folks. Welcome down to Bad Brad's Barbecue. Hey, stop looking at Gus. Stop it. All right, folks, you see here, Jagger's trying to throw some cornhole, and he just can't get her done.
I just cannot hit anything today.
I see that, Jagger.
Man, you gotta have some bad Brads. Play that crap when you're hungry.
Vernon always coming in clutch with the barbecue. Oh, yeah, look at that bite, folks. All right, Jagger, let's see it. Look at that, right in the hole.
Bad Brads, where you can't help but be good.
Like Jagger said, folks, Bad Brad's Barbecue, where it's good to be bad.
But also, it's sometimes in the studio, I was like, oh man, this needs to sound like a petty intro, you know, like, or this needs to have this kind of vibe, you know, like, we talk about stuff like that all the time. So I think you kind of take pieces of what you listen to and what you like and you implement it.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's kind of taking a little bit from someone else.
Yeah.
At all point.
It's all inspired by something, right? Well, if you don't mind, you mind playing us another song for us?
Well, I might as well pump these guys. We're doing a show in Nashville here in a little bit, but we're doing Americana Fest, and I'm in a band called the Panhandlers with Josh Abbott and John Bauman and Cleto Cordero. And this is, speaking of outside cuts, the cool thing about this project is we take songs from friends of ours from the Lubbock area and we write songs too for the project, but we take some songs that we absolutely love and we'll put them on the record and we'll sing them, and which I've never done before, but it's been really, really fun in that project to do that. And this is a song that was written by our friend Charlie Stout, who is a fantastic songwriter and one of the best songwriters in West Texas, and a great photographer too. And he's been a friend of ours for years. And I always thought this song needed to see the light of day, and we put a little spotlight to it, and it got on Yellowstone, which was really cool. And I know he was super proud of that, and because I think he always thought it was a good song, and it's not a good song, it's a great song. So I'm happy to play it. It's called West Texas in Mine. Lately I've been thinking I could leave this town, cut back on my drinking, stop this running around, playing songs till after midnight, staying up till dawn. But there's something in the dust and wind that keeps me hanging on. And I never thought I'd live to see the day I'd say goodbye. I ain't crying, that's West Texas in my eye. I'll be your blue-eyed bandit if you'll be my renegade. Watch 1,000 tumbleweeds roll by me every day. I'd like to grow a rose and stow it in that desert sage, like a message in a bottle floating down the open plains, where the yellow staccato rises up to meet the sky. I ain't crying, that's West Texas in my eye. I've watched the thunderheads ascend and rip into the ground, the twisted hand of heaven spreading terror all around, putting farmers into deeper debt and ranchers in the grave, where towers mark the end of time with slowly spinning blades, where the water table falls below the reach of humankind. I ain't crying, that's West Texas in my eye. Lately I've been thinking I could lead this town, cut back on my drinking, stop this running round, playing songs till after midnight, staying up till dawn. But there's something in the dust and wind that keeps me hanging on. And I never thought I'd live to see the day I'd say goodbye. I ain't crying, that's West Texas in my eye. I ain't crying, that's West Texas in my eye.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So glad you played that one. I love that song. I was telling him on the way up here, I was like, man, I would really love to hear West Texas in my eye today.
Oh yeah, man.
We actually talked to Cleto yesterday. We saw him out at Born and Raised.
Cool.
And
That's a great guy, man.
I told him, I was like, yeah, tomorrow we're going to see, we're going to interview William. He's like, oh. So I don't know if he didn't believe us or he did whatever the case was.
Yeah.
So Cleto's a great guy, man.
So
Love
how
his
did
spirit.
how did all that come about?
Abbott, I think Abbott had an edible or something in Steamboat, and he watched the girls do the Dixie Chick tribute, and it was like Jamie Lynn, Courtney Patton, and I can't remember if Bree Bagwell was a part of it. I think Caitlin Butts was a part of it, maybe. But they did like a girl. All the girls were involved in it. I feel like everyone came up and did Dixie Chick song, and it was really this cool tribute. Like they're like, you know, everyone was talking about how cool it was that year. And so Abbott was like, man, we should do a West Texas. Everyone does like a tribute kind of thing every year or something like some guys do. And Abbott was like, man, we should do a record and release it right before Steamboat, and then do a show of just West Texas cover songs. Like songs like that, West Texas My Eye, and like Joe Ely songs, and Butch Hancock, and Terry Allen songs, and Waylon songs, and Buddy Holly, and just, you know, and maybe do like a Pat Green song, but just like an homage to West Texas, you know, because that's really where our careers, you know, I'm from East Texas, but, you know, Lubbock is my musical home. I mean, it always has been. I mean, and I was like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'm in. Sounds fun. And then we kind of had like a meeting about it, and we went to go talk to a producer, and Bruce Robeson was our first, our first guy we talked to, and he was like, what do you guys want to accomplish? And we started talking about songs, and I was like, you know, we're songwriters too. I mean, we could write for this thing. Like we could put some, you know, a few originals on it about West Texas, and then so we did like our little writers retreat, and you know, our goal is to write a song or two, and we wrote like 5, and we all loved them. And so we were like, well, shit, let's just do the whole record. Let's just write the whole record. So we did a couple more songwriting retreats, and we just kind of made a record. And then we did, like I said, some outside cuts like Charlie Stout, and threw some songs that people. And then we were like, let's do songs that that deserve to see the light of day that no one knows about, as opposed to like more famous West Texas songs and us just like singing them,
Yeah.
And so that's really how it started. And then Josh has been the I'd say the captain of the ship on that deal. And without his work ethic and how much the time he's put into it, it probably would have never happened. But it's been a really fun experience. It's been stressful at times too, but it's just really difficult getting all four of us on the same page with touring and stuff like that. And it always seems like something's chaotic's going on with it. But every time we hop on stage and play, like, you kind of forget about all that, and it's just really fun. It's really fun to play the songs online, but getting us on stage, but getting us together, it can be a cluster, So.
Yeah. So I actually saw that you guys are, like you said, you guys are playing shows. You're actually going to Oklahoma City, I think sometime in November, October?
No, I think January.
January, okay, yeah.
January, February.
I was like, when I saw that, I was like, that's awesome. I didn't know you guys were actually touring as the Panhandlers? Is that what it is again?
Mm.
Yeah. That's what I thought. But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna have to go out and see that show. It'll be really good
come on out, man. It's really cool. It's it's not like a rockin' show at all. It's not like it's just it's kind of like a folk show. But man, it really is fun, and it's also like I think you just kind of get to see you get to see me in a different light. You get to see Abbott in a different light, where our shows are so much more drastically different than what this is. So it's fun for us because we get to kind of play a different role. You know? But yeah, it's been awesome, and the songs have been like really fun and really creative and enjoyable, and also writing songs with those guys, getting to see their process and how they do it. It's really cool. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So is there new stuff coming from the Panhandlers?
We just released a new record. How long ago was that? I think it was like earlier this year. It's called Tough Country, and yeah, so we'll probably get back together and do a couple songwriting retreats probably next year. It typically takes about a year and a half or two for those things to kind of from start to finish. So I imagine next year we'll kind of start riding for it in the next one. So
that's awesome.
Who were some of your musical inspirations as far as artists goes when you were coming up? Was it all that sound, or did you have any influences from other genres as well?
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to. I mean, when I was racing BMX bikes when I was living in Tyler, we always had whatever was on the country radio because there was no other option. There was nothing. Radio stations own music. I mean, they controlled what you listened to. And so we that's what I was listening to. I was listening to Garth Brooks and George Strait and, Tanya Tucker and just whoever was on the radio because that's what we're listening to, But then the mix station, in Tyler, they're equally both parts, we'd always listen to the mix station too. And it's like, Third Eye Blind. I remember being a huge Third Eye Blind fan and being Goo Goo Dolls and the Spin Doctors. I remember listening to them all the time. Red Hot Chili Peppers. That record was awesome, their first record, and then I even got into like heavy stuff like Tool. I remember listening to some Marilyn Manson back in the day, and I had skates and I had a BMX bike, and we lived out in the sticks too. It was, and then when I moved to College Station, when we moved out of the country.
When I moved to College Station, give a huge shout out to our new sponsor, Red Earth Designs. They made all of these new T-shirts you're seeing. You can find those on social media if you go to our page, Guitars Cowboys Pod. You can click on that, message us, get a shirt, all that good stuff.
They also made these awesome cups for us, guys. They do everything from screen printing, vinyl, laser etching. They will probably even give you a tattoo if you can give them enough time. But go check out Phil there in Perry. Great shop. We'll be looking to go there in the future, give you guys kind of a lowdown on their background.
Thank you so much to Red Earth Designs for sponsoring us.
When I moved to College Station, moved to the city, man, it's really when I started missing. I didn't really realize I'd miss how I was raised so much until I moved to the suburbs.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then that whole lifestyle, I wanted to identify with so much more because back when I was living in it, I was trying to escape it, I felt like. And then whenever I got out of it, I was like, oh man, that was so much cooler than living in this concrete block right here. Like moving to College Station sucked because we lived in the suburbs. And and Tyler, I had a dirt bike, and my neighbor had a dirt bike, and we had 22s on the back of our dirt bike, and we go ride around the creek and we go shoot. I mean, it was just like whatever. Like, we were in 6th grade. We had guns and we had weapons and dirt bikes. Like, and we could go anywhere. Like, it was a cool, and like you get to the city, and now I got my BMX bike, which I was, I loved BMX back then, and I was riding on the city, and I was like, this is not near as fun as a dirt bike and a 22.
Yeah.
Like, and so I kind of identified a lot more. I started listening to way more country music, and then I started digging deeper. And Dad was like, man, if you like this, you should. And my dad always liked underground stuff. So he's like, if you like this, you need to check out this Will Sound Ramsey guy. And he goes, I love this record. And he gave me the record, and I just fell in love with it. And then once I listened to him, he's like, well, then you need to listen to some Guy Clark, and then you need to listen to Lyle Lovett, and then Robert O'Kane. And then then it opened Pandora's box, and it was over after that. Yeah. But Guy Clark, my uncle was a huge Guy Clark fan, and I remember he goes, hey, my uncle's a lawyer in Conroe, and he goes, hey, a friend of mine is the judge in the Woodlands, and her son just came out with this record. You want to listen to it? And we were on the way to Beaumont. And I was like, yeah, put it in. And we listened to it the entire weekend. It was a great record. And I was like, hey, what was the name of that guy? And it was Hayes Carll's first record. And he was, it just came out, and no one knew who he was. And we listened to that record, and so I had that, and my uncle gave me that record because he had like 3 more copies. So hey, I really like the record. So I had that first record. So I've always been a Hayes fan too. So even when he first started. So then we found out about Chris Knight. Me and my dad both found out about Chris Knight. We drove to Navasota to get the tape when it came out. They actually had an actual tape. And so just kind of once I got into that, it was like the underground scene was like way cooler than way cooler than George Strait's and the Garth Brooks for me.
Sure.
Nothing. Obviously, I'm not talking shit about George Strait here, but Chris Knight was like the coolest thing. I never heard that type of music before.
Yeah.
That's not what radio was playing. It was really cool because it was like this. All the songwriting, and there's more songwriter stuff. And then Steve Earle was kind of that bridge where he was. Super popular, but then he went underground on purpose, and started putting out some really cool records, and so it's just stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really underappreciated in the past years, especially, has been the songwriting aspect, at least since like 2010s and probably some of the 2000s, and that's why I really got into kind of the Red Dirt, kind of underground scene, like you were saying, because it had better songwriting to me than what was being played on the radio.
Well,
most of the time.
Radio is formulated songs. I mean, you hear the same lines in every song, and it's when something's popular, everyone just chases it, and it just gets redone until someone, dude. I mean, you can hate on Fort George Line all you want, but at least they were the first ones to do it.
Yeah.
And then everyone started doing it. The whole damn music scene started doing exactly what they were doing. So, but at least they pioneered it. At least they have that, So, but that's what happens as soon as someone's, Morgan Wallen. As soon as he did his thing, what does everyone sound like? Mm-hmm. They all sound like Morgan Wallen now, and Hardy. Him and Hardy started the whole new sound of country music now. Yeah. And love him or hate him, but at least he did it, and everyone's copying him. But that's what they do. They find something popular, then everyone else starts seeing what works, and they just start. Then every writer's writing songs like that. They copy, they imitate how they write songs, and they just throw stuff out. But
do you think the rise of Zach Bryan will make writers start writing more that type of music because he's gotten so big?
I think the Zach Bryans and the Ko Wetzels are the. I think they are. Let's see this. What's the best way to say this? Not saying it's a negative reaction, but it's a negative. It's positive and negative. So if Nashville's doing the negative, they're the positive reaction to that.
They're polar opposite.
Yeah. Exactly. They're doing what everyone's like, what the hell is this? And they're like, we want this. That's what it is. That's the reaction to they're the reaction to what Nashville's doing. Mm-hmm. So whatever they're so different that people are like, this is what I'm talking about, not that. And so I think that's my personal opinion.
So is it like a cycle that will just kind of continue? People will get enough eventually of this kind of sound, and then it will kind of flip to something else? Or
I don't know. I think my personal opinion, I think Nashville does everything they can do to stop the guys like Zach Bryan because they don't have control of it. Like Sturgill Simpson. I mean, dude, Sturgill Simpson put out one of the greatest country records of all time, and he wasn't invited to CMAs or anything.
Yeah.
Like what?
High Top Mountain.
Like
Fantastic.
Willie, Waylon, all those guys, they weren't doing that stuff either.
Yep.
They weren't invited. Dude, that's the thing. It's like if they're not involved, they're not interested in promoting it at all.
Yeah.
They're not fans of country music. They're fans of money. So if they don't have their hand in the pot, why the hell they don't want people to figure out that Zach Bryan and the Co-Etzels and the guys like us are doing it the way that you can do it that way. They think you have to have them.
Yeah.
So the way that Spotify has been love or hate Spotify, for me, it's been a huge tool to like to compete with radio. I mean, because we don't get played. I mean, thank God there are some stations that do play us, but that was the control of music back in the day. Like I said, like, we listened to country music radio. You weren't listening to underground guys because there was no access to it.
Yeah.
We weren't, and as kids or consumers of music, like the only way you find out new guys is if you go to a bar and you hear a guy play and he has a CD for sale.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, I just think the Zach Bryans and the Co-Etzels and all that stuff are just like the alternate of that. So.
Yeah, and I do think, like you said, Spotify is doing a really good job, like especially like their curated playlists that they have, and like they'll have guys like you and like Wyatt Flores, and they'll have playlists out there that they promote, and it shows up on your like your For You page or for Spotify, and then like consumers like me can go click on that and then just discover new songs from that, and it's been a really big tool for like finding artists like that, especially smaller artists.
And like here's another thing too, and this totally disproves what I just said, but Parker McCollum, like he has a major record deal in Nashville. He's on CMAs, and they're getting behind him, which is like the first time an artist. I mean, Eli Young kind of happened to them too. They got behind Eli Young pretty heavy, but they're pushing Parker. They're accepting him, I guess, in Nashville. And it's working for him. He's had great success lately, which is awesome, and I'm happy for him about that because he hasn't changed.
Yeah,
I mean his songs have not changed, which has been really cool to watch. So, and he always said he wants to write. Parker's always said, he goes, Will, I want to write Chris Knight songs but make Luke Bryan money. I was like, you keep doing that, buddy. So, that kind of disproves my point too, because he's, Parker's success definitely started in Texas, and Coast did too, and they've kind of now become national acts.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know you got to run here pretty soon. I got one more question.
Shoot.
For someone who hasn't heard your music, what are 3 songs that you would recommend they go check out of yours to get your whole thing?
Well, I think you have to get the most obnoxious one you're either going to love or hate out of the way, which would be Ringling Road. So if you can make it through that, if you can make it through that song without hating me or hating my songs, and your mind's that open, I think that would be the first one I'd send you to. But
that's good news for me because I love that song.
I think Anymore is the best song I've ever written. And I think, in my personal opinion, I would say Anymore is the best song I've ever written. Aber Island is who I kind of am as a person, and Ringling Road's my creativity, I guess. So,
that's awesome.
It's just, but man, I've 6 albums now. That's a really hard question to ask because there's so many of them. And I go back and there's songs that I don't even play anymore, and I'm just like, man, I wish I still played that song. But
it's like trying to pick a favorite kid.
Yeah, they all have. Well, they all live their own lives, it's kind of a weird deal. So, but Anymore is the best song I've ever written. I'm pretty proud of that one, and I love the new song I just wrote too. So I'm pretty in love with that one too.
Yeah,
so.
Awesome. Well, if you don't mind, play one more song for us to send us out.
Sure. Let's think of what I should do. Yeah, I'll do this. So this is kind of my go-to song. I would say this might be my top 3 too. So. I've been thinking about you and me, and all this time we spend together. I got a feeling, baby, can't you see? It's so good, but it could be better. One of these days, gonna get it right. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. You've been running just to yourself. Glad that you found your way back home. You've been missing me, can't you tell? Ain't no reason we should be alone. You and me, baby, going out tonight. Good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. The creek don't rise. The moon is shining, stars aligning. I feel it coming on. I've been waiting, baby, long enough. Ain't gotta worry, it'll be just fine. Now or never, baby, give it up. Move a little closer, put your hand in mine. You look pretty damn good tonight. You and me, baby, gonna get it right. Ain't going down till the morning light. Good Lord willing and the creek don't rise. The creek don't rise. The creek don't rise. The creek don't rise.
Awesome.
Thank
We
you
really
again for
appreciate
coming
it.
on.
Cheers,
Yep.
man.
Thank you so
guys.
much.